Hello class, today's lesson is lesson 9-3 in your algebra textbook, and it's learning how to solve quadratic equations by graphing. Now we've learned how to solve equations before. One method that we did before was factoring, and if I was going to factor this equation x squared minus 6x plus 5 equal to 0, I could see that I could break it up as x minus 1 times x minus 5 and set that equal to 0. Then I could split these and I would have x minus 1 is equal to 0 and x minus 5 is equal to 0. And to solve that, I would move it to the other side. So x would equal 1. That would be one of the solutions. And x would be equal to 5. That would be a second solution. Well, the way that we're going to do today is just another method, and it's by graphing. So this is going to require a lot more work because you're actually going to have to graph the equation. But by finding where your parabola crosses the x-axis, you're going to see what the solutions are. And so if you're simply just given a graph of a parabola, you can see right away what the solutions of that function are. So if I was going to graph this one, which we'll practice coming up, I would have my points just like this. Let's see here. My parabola, when I connect it, would look like this, nice and rounded. And we go up, and you can see here that it's crossing the x-axis where x is equal to 1, but also where x is equal to 5. So sometimes it's going to have two solutions, all right? You may also have a parabola that looks something like this. I'm just drawing a made-up one right now. All right, and in this case, the parabola would only have one solution. The solution would be x is equal to -4. Now there might be a third possibility. You may have a parabola that is floating up here in the air, all right? Or it may be pointing downward, because we know parabolas can point downward. And as you can see, this parabola never even crosses the x-axis, which means it's going to have no real solutions. So why don't we practice all three of these different variations, okay? One that might have two solutions, one that might have one solution, and one that would have no real solutions at all. So the first equation that I want us to graph is x squared minus 2x equal to 3. And we're going to solve this by graphing. So first, why don't we rewrite it so that it equals 0. So I'm going to move the 3 to the other side. So it's going to be x squared minus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. Now, I would be able to solve this by factoring, but instead I want to solve it by graphing. Okay, so it's going to be graphing the function y is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 3. Okay, to do that, first I want to look to see if it's pointing upward or downward. There's a 1 right there for the a, so it's positive, so it's going to be pointing upward. This is just some helpful hints to help me graph it. Next, I want to find out where the axis is going to be. That's going to be where x is equal to negative b divided by 2a. So the b in this instance is -2 divided by 2 times the a is 1. -2 is +2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So the axis is going to be at +1. So let me draw that on my graph right now. This is going to be my axis of symmetry. Then I'm going to find the vertex where x is equal to 1. If I plug this 1 into the top, y is equal to 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 3. I'm going to find that the y is going to be equal to -4. So I'm going to plot this coordinate 1, negative 4, this down here is going to be my vertex. Then again, I'm going to choose 2 points to the left. So in this case, I'm going to choose 0, and I'm also going to choose negative 1. When I plug in 0 into the beginning function right up here, I'm going to get negative 3. And when I plug in negative 1 into this function, the y is 0. Okay, so I'm going to have 0 down to negative 3, and I'm going to have negative 1 to 0. Let's do our reflections now. So straight across from the negative 3, straight across. All right. Let me draw my parabola for you. And there we go. And looking at this parabola, it looks to me like it does have 2 solutions. Okay, so if you're not good at factoring and you like graphing, this is a great way to find the solutions. So the solutions are negative 1 and 3. So this one has 2 solutions. Let's go ahead and do another one. The next one says solve negative x squared plus 2x equals 1 by graphing. So again, let's rewrite this one. Negative x squared plus 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. Okay, this is the equation that I want to solve. So let's write it as a function. Y is equal to negative x squared plus 2x minus 1. The first step is to look to see if it's going to be pointing upward or downward. Because it's a negative 1 as its coefficient, it's going to be pointing downward. Okay. Second thing that we're going to do is find the axis of symmetry. So again, x is equal to negative b divided by 2a. So it's negative. b is 2 divided by 2 times a is negative 1. So this is negative 2 divided by negative 2, which is positive 1. So at positive 1, I'm going to draw my axis of symmetry. Okay. And now let's find the vertex. So when x is equal to 1, we need to find out the y. So y is equal to negative 1 squared plus 2 times 1 minus 1, and that is going to be equal to 0. Okay, so let's plot this point of 1, 0. This is my vertex. Right there. That is going to be my vertex. So why don't we go ahead and pick a couple points to the left of this line of symmetry. So I'm going to pick 0 and negative 1. When I plug in 0 into my quadratic function, I'm going to get negative 1. And when I plug in negative 1 into my quadratic function, I'm going to get negative 4. Now, I assume that you know how to plug these in, so that's why I'm not going through step by step how to get the y's. All right, but now I can plot these points. So I'm going to have 0 down negative 1. I'm going to have negative 1 down negative 4. And now I'm going to reflect the points. So straight across from negative 1. And straight across from this negative 4. And now I can graph this parabola, and it is pointing downward. And you know what? I only see one place where this function is crossing the x-axis. So that means it's only going to have one solution. So it's going to have one solution at positive 1, and that is my answer. Okay, let's do one more example. So this time I want you to solve x squared plus 7 is equal to 4x by graphing. So again, we need to rewrite our equation by subtracting 4x. So it's going to be x squared minus 4x plus 7 is equal to 0. I'm going to write it as a function of y, so y, or function of x, so y is equal to x squared minus 4x plus 7. First step, let's check. Is it going up or down? Has a positive number right there, so it's pointing upward. Second thing is, let's look for the axis of symmetry. Again, x is equal to negative b divided by 2a. Okay, this is going to be negative 4 on top, divided by 2 times a is 1. Negative is positive, so 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay, so I'm going to draw my axis of symmetry where x is equal to 2. Right, there we go. Okay, third step, let's find the vertex. So when x is equal to 2, we want to find out what the y is. So let's plug it in. 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 7. All right, this is going to equal 3. So I'm going to plot a point at 2, 3. Right, so 2 and up to 3. Right, there we go. Next up, let's pick 2 points to the left of my axis of symmetry. So let's choose 1 and 0. When I plug in 1 into my function, I'm going to get the y is equal to 4. When I plug in 0, the y is going to equal 7. So let's plot those points. 1 up 4 and 0 up 7. Then I'm going to reflect these points around the axis of symmetry. And then I'm going to connect my dots to draw my parabola. Nice and slow. And what do we notice? No place does this parabola cross the x-axis, which means that there are no real solutions. So, to recap, if you are going to find 2 solutions, all right, the parabola that you're going to find is going to be crossing the x-axis at 2 points. Okay? If it has 1 solution, your parabola is going to be crossing the x-axis at just 1 point. So it's just barely going to be touching. It can go up or down. I'm going to draw a downward one. And if your parabola never even touches the x-axis, it will have no real solutions. So what I'd like you to do is try one on your own. I want you to graph this by solving negative x squared plus 6x is equal to 9. I don't want you to factor it to solve it. I want you to graph it and see if it has 2 solutions, 1 solution, or no real solutions, and find out what the solution is. And I will see you in class.